Okay, in this video we are going to look at setting up the animations for our character so they play when we want them to play in the game. So we're going to look at the walk, then the jump, possibly the attack. Maybe the attack will be in the next video because this one might be quite long. So from the last video we should have our character, from the last few videos, sorry, we should have our character in here. In the last couple of videos we set up the jump, we set up the walk, and in the last video we set up the rotation of the character so the character is looking in the right direction depending on which way they jump. We also set up some double jump settings and things like that. One thing I did mention was we was going to look at increasing the jump height. We are actually going to do that in a later video because there's some things we need to set up first. So we'll get to that probably in this video. So to begin with, what you need to do is you need to bring in the animations, all the animations that you're going to need. One thing that some people may not have is the jump into two sections. So we need the jump into a start section. So what I've done, I've brought these in and set them into individual folders depending on obviously attack, death, idle, jump, land, walk. And the jump is actually split into the start and land. So if I go into the flipbooks where I've set these up, the start of the jump is like this, so it's starting to jump up, and then the land is kind of hard to see there, but the legs are contracting and it's about to land. So we may need to split up your jump. There's a couple of ways you could do that. You could separate that before you bring it in, or when you bring in the images and separate them up, you can then just select the ones at the start of the jump and put them in one folder, and select the others that are the end of the jump and put them into another folder, and then create a flipbook. If you don't know how to create a flipbook, I will go back to one of the older videos where we talk about separating this up and creating flipbooks, but this should be quite understandable now if you're at this section of the playlist. Just if you are unsure, once you've got them separated up like this, you can either select them. So once they're set into sprites, you can go through, select them, the sprites that is, not just the images, and create flipbook, and that will create you a flipbook. So what I've done that for all of these, and then just gone into the flipbooks folder and put the actual flipbooks into here. So we've got the idle, which you should already have, the walk-in, which if I just open, it's the walk-in, the attack. The attack may not be used in this video, the death definitely won't, but it's worth bringing them in at this point if you have them ready. Got the end of the jump, and we've also got the start of the jump. Now just be aware, you want to set this up so the frames per second is set up as the same amount of keyframes. Ideally, you may tweak this afterwards, but I would say this should be the same as this number, so 6 here, 6 here. And then just also make sure your collision source is on each frame, just so every frame the character is going to collide with anything that's around it. So just make sure that's set up for each of your animations. Make sure you save all, and then once you've got them set up like this, we've got a folder with all your flipbooks in, all your animations. So once that's set up, which you may need to pause the video and get that set up, we are then going to go into the Goblin character. So I'd say pause here if you do need to set that up, and then carry on with the video. So if we open the Goblin character, we have a few things in here that we need to look at. So what we need to do is we need to create a variable for each animation. So we're talking the idle, walk, jump, start, jump, landing, the attack, and the death. This may be different for yourself depending on the game you're setting up, but for us, this is what it's going to be. So to do this, we go to variables here on the left, a bit like when we set up the walk boolean, which we're now not using, but I've just got it in there still. We click add, and we're going to set these up as a hold on. So we're going to actually search for paper flipbook, and we're just looking for object reference. So if we just click on that, it should go blue and say paper flipbook here. And then just in the, stretch this out so you can see the things. In the variable name, we can change this to idle flipbook, and then var variable. We are then we are then going to press compile, and you'll see this appear when we press compile. This allows us to then put in the idle animation. So we then have a variable here with idle flipbook. Make sure it's paper flipbook, name it, press compile, and then add the animation. So once we've done this one, we're going to do another one. Duplicate it. We're just going to add a new one. Call this, name this first. This one will be the walk. So again, using underscores instead of spaces. So we've got walk, flipbook, var. So remembered it's a paper flipbook. We just compile. Then here, we need to go in here and find the walking flipbook. So we're just going to repeat this process for the start jump, the jump landing, the attack, and the death. So I'm just going to quickly do that. So again, start bar, compile. Again, if you hover over it, it should play the animation just to check it's working, check you've got the right one. You could also, once you've got one set up, you could just duplicate it and then change the name. So jump land var, compile, and then just make sure you change the flipbook to landing. Yep. So we've just got the attack and death to do. Quickly do them. Yep. We just compile that and add the flipbook. There we go. We've got the attack, and the last one is the death. So death, flipbook, var. So just compile that, add the animation, the flipbook, sorry, and press compile and save once we've done that, just to make sure all these are saved. So we should have idle, walk, jump start, jump land, attack, and death. If you don't have these ready, bring in the ones you have and we can look at adding the others later. Shouldn't be an issue. Just get the ones in. At the moment, you should have at least your idle, your walk, and your jump for your main character if you're in the class. the attack and death would be good to have, just so you can follow along a bit better. So now we've got these in, we need to set up a function to call the animation we want at a certain time, and we're going to use what is known as a state machine. So a state machine holds the animations, and then it can switch between them depending on which state it's in. So the first thing we're going to do is click here, click function. This will open a new tab because we're creating a new function. Now let's call this flipbook function. Okay, so this flipbook function. So in here, we need to hold on a second. So if we add a branch, it's for a true and false. So we are going to just compile and save this here. And we're actually going to leave this window, go back to the content browser and right click. We are then going to go to blueprints here, not the blueprint class. We want the blueprints where it gives you the drop down. And we're actually going to create what's known as an enumeration. I think that's how you pronounce it. So we will be using this, or an enum. We'll be using this to put our animations in. So if we click this and name this animation states and double click here. Here we can add a new enumeration, and we're just going to call this idle. We're going to add another, call this walk. And so forth. So jump start. Jump land. Attack. And the death. So all this is going to do is list them when we need them. You don't need to worry about any of this. Just save that. Once these are typed in, we're going to use this to pick out if it's the idle, the walk, the jump start, so forth. They will come up in this order. You can rearrange them here. So say you wanted the walk to come up first, so forth. You move them down. So I want the idle. So we want the idle at the top, the walk, so forth. That's how I want them, so I'm just going to save again and close this window. So we're going to go back into the character, and hopefully the flipbook function is still here. So what we are looking for is to create a variable called the anim state. So this is referring to the thing we've just set up. So in here, oh sorry, we need to name this, next state, anim state. My mistake. So next state. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to remember what I need to do. 2 seconds. Okay, yes. So we also need to create a variable for the animation states. So if we create a new one, go to where the Boolean box is on the right and just search the name of the enum we've just created, so the animation states. And it should come up like this. And we just name that anim states. Enter. Just press compile, save. So here you'll find that in this anim states one we've just searched for, when we compile, it'll give us a list here. So this is the list that we've just set up, so we can go from walk to jump, so forth. So the next thing we need to set up is the actually picking up the animations. So we drag this in. That's, I'm sorry. Set. Okay, there's a little bit I'm forgetting here. So we bring in the sprite. Okay, yes. So I believe you need to just undo that. If we select the sprite up here on the right and just drag that in, and that'll give you this little box that's connecting to the sprite. So if we just drag off from here and search set flipbook, so we get this. So here what this is saying is the sprite, so what's inside the sprite should play a certain flipbook. So at the moment it's just on idle. Here we can actually select them individually, but what we're going to do is we're going to drag out from here and create a select. With this select, what we can do is we can set up multiple flipbooks. So here, we need to check this. Yes. So if we double checking that, so if I just delete this, so if we pull out here and create a select, like I just did, and then we've only got two options here, so we want more. So we're going to bring in this animation states and just put set, not set, sorry, get. So we just delete that. Bring this in and get, so we get it like this. Just drag this into the index. What this does is it takes the information from the animation states and puts it into here. So we have an idle, a walk, jump start, jump land, attack, and death. So we can set up a flipbook for each one of these, and that will lead into setting the flipbook for the sprite. So we need to bring in these flipbooks that we set up. So if we just drag in and get, and we're just going to do this for each one. To line them up underneath each other. So then we just drag from each one and connect up to the corresponding connections, walk to walk, idle to idle, so forth. Okay, so we've got it like this. So the sprite will change condition of the flipbook that's playing on one of these. So again, if you was to add some of these later on, you may need to increase your animation states to then add more options and then add more flipbook variables to connect them up. So then you can choose between them. So again, it would be ideal to have your animations ready before you do this, but if you are at a stage where you're still finishing some off, you can come back and add those later. So from here, just checking my notes. I believe here we need to bring in the next state and just get. And we're just going to connect that up to the condition. So what this is going to say is it's going to tell us what the next state is. So flipbook function is going to tell us what the next state is, and then we're going to connect it up to here. We just need, down the other end, a return node. Return node. So I've just searched it, right click, searched, and add return node. So what we have here is we need to know that this is false. So if the next state isn't the same, it goes to false, and then it chooses one of these. Then if it's true, it's just going to go to the return node. And then from the flipbook, once it is completed, it will then go to the return node. So I believe this is correct. I may have to fix this afterwards, but I believe this is correct. So if we save and compile, we can close, well, I will jump back across to the event graph. And then what we can do here is we can actually bring in this flip function. And what this should do is give us options. I believe that is correct. So 2 seconds. I'll just go. Double checking this is correct. Okay, so there's something I'm missing on the flipbook function. I will just pause the video and come back to it once I've double checked it. So, pause.